Okay, so I'm so excited that my first single under my name is finally out. I've written and co-produced many songs in the past, but this was the first one that I produced completely on my own, so it was definitely a learning experience. But it is out now on every streaming or downloading service of your choice. It's even on TikTok, if that's your thing. And I even put a lyric video out for it, which I will link below, and a few other links too, so that you could go ahead and listen to the song. But first of all, I want to thank everyone, my family, my friends, and people on Instagram that have been so supportive of this. It means so much. Any artist would know that it's very nerve-wracking to launch a whole new project, so I've just been so grateful for that. And if you viewing this right now want to support as well, then go ahead and like and subscribe. It takes like a second and it's free. And not only does it help me, you're actually showing your support to other artists, especially during this crazy time. Alright, so I mentioned a few times in the past that this song was actually inspired by my grandfather's life, and I actually have a video of the process of me creating the single cover to it, which was inspired by a photo that he took of himself. So if you want to go ahead and look at that, I'll link it below as well. But this song is very much inspired by his life. But I was making sure to write it in a way that more people could relate to it, so there's actually a second meaning as well to this song, which is more focused on a love story of a defining the relationship stage, I guess, something like that. So, but we're gonna go in depth with both of those meanings in each section's lyrics. I am gonna focus quite a bit on the meaning just because this specific song is very important to me with that, which you will see soon. But we will also go over a little bit of the production side as well. So, all right. Okay, so I wanted to start from the very beginning, and I mean the very beginning. I tend to start songs in different ways just depending how I feel. Sometimes I'll make little beats on my iPad, or I'll use my limited skills on guitar and piano. But this time I really wanted to focus on the melody, make sure the melody had something more strong that could stand alone. So I just started with singing, and that was a little bit different for me. But I wanted to show a few of my voice memos of that. I'm always recording my writing process on my phone on the Voice Memos app, and I'm so nervous that someday if someone steals my phone or takes it, they're gonna listen to all of them, because they're horrible sometimes when I'm trying to figure out melodies to write, or I'm still like hearing it listening to it in my head and everything. It just does not come out right, and I have so many voice recordings of that, and it's pretty bad. But I went back to the ones here, and I thought it was pretty fun to see where all this came from and to listen to past me try to figure out what the melody was going to end up being. So that's really cool to listen back on. So I'm going to share some of those with you. The first recording I'm going to share is really beginning. You're going to hear how it kind of sounds. I was actually surprised how similar it sounded to the melody in the end, but let's just listen to it. Okay, so that's basically it. I basically did that multiple times. But you could kind of hear I'm like fishing, like fishing through it. Trying to figure out what I wanted. I was slower at it, and I don't know, it's kind of cool. It wasn't too far off, but I had a little bit of lyrics going on there, but not much yet. So let's see where that went. Send me home. Anyway, so you can kind of hear me there. I had to repeat some of the phrases because I was making sure I got it right. This whole part of the process, I have to record anything at this point because I don't want to forget anything that I'm doing. So that's sometimes why it sounds very uncertain. But you could hear here, I was starting to do the lyrics. I was saying send me home or something like that. I tend to just sort of morph my words when I'm starting out, which you'll hear more later too. But I actually stuck with that idea of home or going home. So, all right, let's go to the next one. Alright, so here you can kind of hear, obviously you can hear that there's guitar now, so I had Victor play some guitar parts with me on this, and I was trying to figure out the feel and everything and the chords, so that's where that started, and then that transformed into this next one. Anyway, so that you could hear way faster, more of like a rhythm going on to it. And then I definitely know the melody better now, so that was fine. And then it's a different key. So there you go. I started in one key, changed key, thought that one suited it better. So after that, I decided to take out my trusty iPad and make a little beat. So let's listen to what the beginning stages of that was. So what I like to do in this kind of stage, we'll go back to some of the other previous voice memos, but I like to take my trusty iPad and go to the GarageBand on there sometimes. It's nice for me to just do that in the writing process because I feel like it really takes the pressure off of it having to be really good and just simplifies everything. It kind of forces you to be creative in a more simple setting and just no pressure and just having fun. So I actually ended up keeping that beat, but I replaced all of those sounds with actual real drum samples later in Pro Tools. I'm going to go ahead and show you what that just sounds like alone from my iPad before I replace them with samples in Pro Tools. So you can hear that hi-hat actually drops out in, I guess, the verse section. I was already kind of mapping out the song. And I stuck with that as well. So all this kind of process, even though it sounded pretty funny in the end, it actually shaped everything. That's why I wanted to show all these because I thought it was really interesting. So after I had more of my melody down, I really wanted to try to come up with riffs just on my own with my vocals and everything. So I remember one of the first riffs that I came up with was the and that ended up being the intro to the song. Originally, I was thinking of it as a bass line, but it didn't work. And then I tried other sounds as well, and I was like, this is just not working. And I was very hesitant to keep the voice originally because I didn't really want it to sound like scatting. But then I was thinking, I haven't heard any songs recently that really do that. Not that it's, innovative or anything. It's just I hadn't heard it that much recently. So I was like, let's just keep the vocals, why not? So that's how I got that whole intro. And so once I had that drum beat down, I knew I wanted a grooving bass. So I came up with the da 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 dum bum bum ba dum 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 da da dum. So once I had that part down, I went ahead and had Victor record it on guitar for the little demo, and then I called in my lovely friend Corey, who did a wonderful job with this. He is very good at doing this kind of style, and I thought he would be perfect for this grooving style. He did a great job, and the only thing that we changed, that is the whole bass line, the whole song. It's over and over and over again. The only note that changes are on the verses, which is just da 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 da. It doesn't go ah on that part because I thought that was too much of a conflicting note with the melody and everything. So that's the only difference. So now that we have our little intro mapped out, we're gonna move on to the first verse, which I love lyrics, so we're gonna dig into this meaning real quick. Once I had the melody down originally, I was thinking, all right, I'm happy with this, but what on earth is the song going to be about? And at the time, my grandfather wasn't doing very well. And I remember sitting in the middle of my living room and just thinking about, what am I gonna write about? What is this song gonna be about? And then it just hit me that it was going to be about him. And a few months after I had started writing that about him, he actually passed away, and I was so grateful to actually be there during his last moments, and it was really a life-changing experience for me. So this song is very important to me on that deeper meaning. But like I said earlier, we also have the love story meaning, so I made sure to do both of those. But let's just listen to the first lyrics real quick, and then we'll go over that.
Caught at sea in the afternoon, all while thinking about you. Push my luck till I saw the moon, just so I could think about you.
So my grandpa was actually a Seabee in World War II, and I was just imagining what it would be like thinking about home and thinking about your family when you're going off to war. And this was probably the first time he was ever out at sea. He was really young, so I just kind of wanted to imagine that scene, what that would be like. Then I was trying to imagine what it would be like at war, just feeling like you're pushing your luck every single day and just trying to get to the end of the day. And when you finally get the opportunity to even think about your family and think about home, that would just be such a privilege and gift to be able to do.
Oh, you called to me, I heard the sound. Right on time to turn my head around. Felt the earth shake when I hit the ground, till I dreamt of you.
Okay, so this section is actually a literal illustration of when my grandpa got injured overseas. He thought he heard a baby crying, so he turned to go rescue it, and right when he turned, a bomb exploded next to him, and he actually received a Purple Heart for his injuries, which I'll insert here. This is actually a photo of him receiving the Purple Heart in the hospital bed. But the doctor said that if he hadn't turned to that sound, then the shrapnel would have hit him in a way that would have killed him instantly. So that sound, whatever it was, I know in one version that he did tell me one time, he said that he found out later it was a lamb, but who knows. And also my family was saying maybe it was the whistling of the bomb, but regardless, the sound saved his life, and it was basically his guardian angel. And I wouldn't be here today if he didn't just turn. That's so crazy to think about. So the second love story meaning is a little bit more straightforward. It's mainly just about how your thoughts throughout the day until the night and everything are consumed by this new love or this new person or relationship. And also that calling can be, you know, being drawn to that person and you following through with that. And really just being hit hard with love. So musically, there's not too much going on here. It's pretty different from the intro, but for this verse, I decided to break down the drum kit and I took out the hi-hat, and the tambourine doesn't come in until the second part, but I have the bass line going with that one note change and I had that doubled with a guitar to kind of give it that gritty feel. So other than that, there's not much going on other than the sounds on the second half, and then the tambourine, of course, coming back in. So moving on to the first chorus, here I brought back the whole drum kit again. We have the hi-hat again, just like it was in the beginning. And there's actually keys. I totally forgot to mention the keys in the beginning, but I think I have two different keys on there. So there's a slightly more organ-y sound and then a little bit of a synth kind of key going on. So that's playing through that as well. And the guitars are completely different here. There's a plucky part, the but that plucking guitar part is actually huge. Like, it's something that you might not notice, I guess, right away if you're not really paying attention to it. But it brings such a sound to it and such a feel to it that if you were to take that out, you would definitely notice a difference. So I love that part. Then the main guitar part is a more Frusciante inspired part. I remember telling Victor to play something like except with the chords and better, and he did a fantastic job doing that, so really was happy with that. I love Chili Peppers, so that was very happy to just have a little bit of that flavor in there. So thank you, Victor. By the way, check out Victor's channel. He is amazing. I will link all of his stuff below. If you love guitar stuff, you're gonna love his channel, so check that out. Other than that, I have that tambourine going through. Then I also have a little snap and a clap going on that. And then the last layer for the percussion was a shaker. So I had fun recording all those layers of percussion, and I feel like it really gives I don't know, it just adds extra texture to it. It does enhance it a bit. Vocally, there's a bit of a call and response kind of thing going on in the chorus. So we have the call going let me go where unknown, bring me home, then I'll know. That whole part, those are layered like 4 different vocals. I love harmonies and everything, but certain harmonies can kind of give it a very specific flavor, and I just wasn't feeling that at all. So I really wanted to just double these vocals a lot of the time, or triple or quadruple like I did in this part. So it's just the same part, just recorded 4 times. And then you have the response, of course, which is the lay me down till I learn how to run. Those parts are just one vocal. I didn't really add anything to that. But then you have that contrast between the two. I really wanted that feel to it. So that's basically it musically, but let's go on to the meaning of these lyrics.
Let me go, lay me down till I learn how to run. Where I know, written all on the back of my tongue.
So with the story of my grandfather, these lyrics take on a different meaning on the second chorus, but for this chorus, it's obviously talking about that healing after he was injured and being bedridden and ready to heal and be back home. I also imagined wanting to say so much more when you're in the hospital, when you're injured or anything, feeling like you have so much more you want to say, but they're kind of, the words are stuck on the back of your tongue or on the back of your throat.
Bring me home, if only for way too long, then I know it wasn't in vain once I've broken, yeah.
So that second line is showing more of that desperate feeling of really wanting to be home and just hoping that all this struggling, sacrifice, and just suffering in general doesn't go without purpose in the end. So the second meaning with the love story, I guess it's a little confusing with the first line, and it could be slightly suggestive. But the way I sort of imagined it was having all these emotions, really wanting to go for it with this person and for this relationship, and not wanting to swallow your words anymore or hide how you feel around this person. Obviously, it's also illustrating falling for that person and wanting to be with them, choosing to trust them, and hoping that that trust or any past issues with past relationships wasn't in vain now that you are here now with this person. So the post-chorus, basically the same at the beginning. It's where the hoo-da-da, dum-da-da comes back in. But this time I added a few other vocal layers in there to create more of like an instrumental section feel. So we have this other vocal going on there. That's really hard to do, actually. It's like a tongue twister, but for your lips. You have that going on, and then there's also, of course, the... So you have all that vocal layer stuff going on, acting as instruments on their own, because vocals are an instrument too. Moving on to verse 2. This verse is definitely different from the first one musically, so we have the full drum kit in with the hi-hat, everything. Have the tambourine going. There's actually another synth pad that's going on too that was new, that wasn't in any other part of the song. So that's going through the whole verse. Then I have this extra low, the wah, 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 going on. I think I layered that octave, and then I also did a lower octave underneath. So I have that on the first half of that verse. I actually got the idea from listening to Cry Me a River by Justin Timberlake one day, which is obviously produced by Timbaland, one of my favorite producers. And Timbaland does a lot with vocal experimentation, I guess. You can hear his vocal layers and stuff that you're like, wow, that's so cool sounding. So I thought, why don't I just try to do that? Because originally I was trying to just double just the verse vocals on an octave lower, but it wasn't coming out right. So instead I replaced it with that wah, wah, and I think it really helped a lot. And I don't even know if you can hear it really that well in there, but I know it's there, and now you know it's there. So maybe you'll hear it now. So the second half of this verse, I kept the keys going, but I definitely wanted to make more of a contrast because of the meaning of the song. I took out the rim clicks, hi-hats, and tambourine, all those things that were filling it out. I kind of brought it back to more minimalistic sound. Didn't have the guitar doubling the bass on this part, I just had the bass. Then you're left with the keys and just the bass drum, which the bass drum goes like... So that bass drum is kind of creating this like heartbeat sound almost, which was perfect for the meaning of this part of the section, which, what is the meaning? Let's go into that. So when I was writing this, I was thinking of my grandfather at the end of his life, and he was always full of this fire throughout his entire life, even from a really young age where he had to go through some of the hardest things I can't even imagine facing. And believe me, he did have that fire going all the way up until the end, but I imagined what that would feel like when he was going through more complications, him finally, you know, letting that fire ease a little bit and having a little bit more of peace and acceptance of it fading a little bit more. The rehearse it part, I was thinking of all the close calls that he had in the past with death, which of course the bomb exploding next to him just being one of them. And all the times that he did rehearse passing on, it was almost time for the real thing.
Oh, you called to me, I hear the sound. After all the time I've been earthbound, for the first time I think I found how to get to you.
So this first line is obviously mirrored from the first verse, but I was imagining him actively hearing the call from his family members who had passed on already, or from God to join them. And I don't mean that in a sad way. I actually meant this in a very beautiful and bittersweet way when I was writing it. So the last line in this section is him kind of reflecting back on life and maybe having an epiphany or peace with everything that's led up until the end. And maybe a little bit of finding the meaning of life. Now for the second meaning of the love story, it's a lot more straightforward. I was imagining someone, you know, dealing with a lot in their life, maybe dealing with a lot from past relationships, or having trust issues, but choosing to take a chance on this person or this relationship and choosing to trust that person. Sort of similar to the chorus. Maybe they rehearse these moments throughout their life, and as they're reflecting on their entire life, they're realizing that they are willing to take this risk if it means that they can finally have something real. So musically for the second chorus, there isn't much different from the first chorus other than the hi-hat coming in later and then that break on the word tongue. And then it just goes in full on from there. I also have these little twinkly on the double of that chorus because that chorus goes on twice. So the second time it goes on, that comes in and it goes through with the post-chorus. But I really like that part because even though it's very quiet and a little bit subconscious, I think it actually kind of makes a difference. So the lyrics for the second chorus, they're exactly the same as the first chorus, but they take on a different meaning now that we know the meaning of the second verse in My Grandfather's Story. Let me go, lay me down till I learn how to run. This is talking again from the perspective of being bedridden, but this time obviously isn't talking about physical healing. It's more so being free after he passes on. Where I'm known, written all on the back of my tongue. So in this part, I was imagining him with his family, and also at the end, he actually had a hard time getting out everything that he wanted to say at the end because he just didn't have the energy. And again, that's the words being caught on the back of your tongue or just not being able to say everything you want to say. Bring me home, been falling for way too long. This is pretty obvious. His health had been declining and he just wanted to be home. And actually, the last few things that he really said to us a couple of times, one of them was, I just want to be home. And we kept telling him, you are going to go home. Then I'll know it wasn't in vain once I've woken, yeah. This, of course, is him looking back on his life again through all the pain, through all the good things, everything, and how all of those things were not in vain now that he's woken up in his new life. So for the second meeting with the love story, obviously this is the same as the first chorus. So that's basically it, and that's all wrapped up. At the end of the post-chorus, the only thing there really is basically the same as the other post-choruses, except I let the end out the whole thing, and I just thought that was a really good way to wrap it all up and just let it kind of fade out in that sense. So anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of long. Thank you for bearing with me explaining everything. I'm really looking forward to making more videos like these in the future for my new songs. I will go over a little bit more production too as well in the future if you would like. Let me know more of what you want to hear about. I definitely want to do more behind the scenes as well. I just didn't get a chance to do that and start that with this one, but for the future I will. If you want to see other creative process videos, I have more on my channel and I will be constantly putting those out. Thank you again for watching and I will see you next time.